All right, welcome to CAUD. First time back after these masks. First order of business, I understand from the city requirements. If you're vaccinated, you may take the mask off. If you're not, we're going to ask you to keep it on. So we are not going to go around getting copies of your vaccination code, so you do what you feel comfortable. And we're all good, right? That's the first order of business. Anything different about this? Are we still doing any Zoom whatsoever to? Okay.
Watch and listen, and a recording will be available.
So they can't call in. Okay, very good. I want to make sure we get that right. All right, so first order for our business, approval of minutes with no minutes. I don't know what was that the last meeting we had? My note says one cent. That's from my assistant.
Okay. I'll let say.
All right, so we have a motion for approval and a second. Members. You did?
I did. Clean this up.
I see you have new whiskers since the last one, sorry. You're okay, then if he's approved. Okay, motion by John, second by Dan, all in favor? Right. Motion passed. On the agenda first is 7:14. See that?
Next time I'll have to have.
So you use
Yeah. Okay, so the first application is for property address 2nd Fourth Street, and the applicant is located in Nico/Cuisine LLC. You one of you take a seat up front, bit of event. This is a certificate of appropriateness application for new signage. As I stated in the staff report, the applicant is proposing what is essentially a hanging halo-lit channel letter sign that's going to extend out over the promenade there along the Chenango River. That's the first part of their application, and then the second part of their application is to replace the existing aluminum storefront door and window system. Let me just go to that. The first portion of the application is for the sign that will extend out from the masonry above the traditional storefront display windows. And it's, although it's a backlit halo lettering, that's consistent with board's decision for other town front. Second, for commercial storefront board system. My only question to the applicant is what will be done to the existing signage, and if there's any plans for utilizing the area where the signage is here above the existing display windows. But other than that, it's consistent with the design background as far as my staff recommendation goes.
Applicant, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, so you have a sign where that sign is as well?
So the citrus has, sheet metal, that's the base. We're gonna get those letters. And cover the page.
Do we have a mock-up of the proposed replacement sign? I don't have it in my paper.
So, on maybe for my review of the plans, what was the previous decision regarding the backlit signs that you had made before?
So you've never had a hanging sign proposed with backlit letters, but you have had signs that are flush with the storefront that are backlit. In 2 cases in that along Court Street.
Backlit being different from internal illumination.
Correct. There's no illumination through the lettering itself, it's behind.
You got that distinction? Oh, okay. So that,
Joyce, was vaccinated, you possibly speak,
Yes, I have.
jeopardize you or anything, but I really can't hear it.
Gotten so used to wearing that. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. You really do have to be close to this. So what part did you not hear?
go through the backlit versus internally illuminated.
I'm in the North Forty over here, I'm sorry.
Tell me where to go back to. So it's a application, the first part of the application is for hanging sign above the traditional storefront display windows and door system. There is no existing hanging sign there, so this is completely new, it's not replacing. And the proposal has the lettering halo lit, so behind the lettering, just as we've seen in, I think there have been 3 other applications for downtown that have been approved, if memory serves me correctly. And the applicant is seeking approval for this type of signage, but just in this case, the big difference is that it's a hanging projecting sign. They are working with our zoning officer and sign permit as well, and providing any needed insurance as well.
Also, they talked about removing the existing sign, and I can have a mock-up for the proposed sign in my paper.
It's not in the images in the staff report, it should be there. I normally try to keep it all in one document.
I don't see it. Oh, so you're not putting another sign? Okay, I misunderstood. Again, it's hearing, I apologize.
He just said they're gonna move it and then they're gonna
Hang on.
and then that's.
Okay, I'm on board. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Matt.
A lot of gray area.
So I guess the question I have, would the electric come down, so this has like electric to it, in order to be light lit? Would it come down one of the posts to the sign? Is that cable will be internal to one of those posts?
Right, so there's a post that shoots out of the building. The electric wire would go on that post. Go through the building, that should see wire, it would be exposed.
Thanks.
Okay, so in this, we have 2 parts of this. I think just for clarity, we should break those up. So we have the sign and we have the doors. Can you Anybody got any comments regarding replacement doors? Seems pretty standard. Okay. So when you make who wants to make a motion, let's split it. Start with the sign, start with the doors, okay, with the sign.
I would make a motion to approve the Los Amigos sign hanging off the building with the proposed illumination as presented.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
First one passed, doors, please.
I like the doors. Anybody have any? I would make a motion to approve the doors for, Los Amigos, 7 Fort Street, as presented.
Second?
All in favor? Thank you very much. Good luck with your business. How's practice,
Whatever's your closest resident is fine, or the business address is fine.
So, business address for this system, Washington.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 92 State Street.
Okay, so again, and I'll just sort of brief the commission. The next series of applications is for a series of murals that are going to be installed throughout our downtown. So just keep that, in the back of your mind as we go through these. The first address, as you just said, is 92 State Street, and the applicant is Stephanie Brewer with Broome County Planning Department. And yeah, feel free to come forward. And so in this case, these were funded through or will be funded through the Greater Binghamton Fund. And the goal of that was sort of to, augment the cultural identity of the downtowns of Binghamton, Johnson City, and Endicott. And as part of that, a mural program was created. And so the county has worked with the city to identify a series of locations for these murals. And so that's what we're seeing today is some of them. I believe there's one more that will be before the board in August, but that wasn't quite ready yet. But the first we have is for 92 State Street. Now going through it, again, our historic design guidelines aren't particularly helpful for the review of art on historic buildings. All of these buildings and the proposed murals have been to the State Historic Preservation Office, have been reviewed, and 3 out of the 4 were received no effect, completely no effect. And then another received no effect with some conditions, and the applicant has ensured that those conditions will be met as part of the repair work that's needed to accompany that mural. But we'll get to that. So for 92 State Street, the proposed mural is by Stephanie. Can you help me out here? I don't want to butcher the name. Is that mic on? I'm sorry, just press it once.
Danae Brissonette.
And, I think the commission is pretty familiar with reviewing murals, despite the lack of guidance in our design guidelines, because we sort of get a scan of how other communities review these. But I will go to the proposal. And also, I believe I have an update for this one too. So the original proposal is here, but the artist sort of with some interaction with the county and going back and forth a little bit with the property owner as well, has developed a conceptual rendering. And let me just go. As you can see, our internet speed. Yes. Yeah, there was, the initial proposal was what was shown on the staff report. And yesterday, I received this update during going back and forth between all the parties involved. The artist has sort of developed a separate concept for this building to be installed in the same location. I can double check the dimensions really quickly, but I think it was 70 by 50.
No, like the whole facade of the building.
Okay. Stephanie, anything else?
Just a quick note, they kind of explain on the importance of the carousel, but it's not, you know, your typical carousel, and the wildlife, animals here. She likes to use very vibrant, like blues and purples, so, I could send, I think I could send, just kind of a sample of her coloring scheme, which might give you very vibrant.
So, Sean, I know we've done this before, like you had said, Judge Martin very subjective. What did we do, or how did we address, like, it says not to paint, this is really not paint, right, in that part. So is that something that we acknowledge? And then we also talked about when it gets freshened up, or if it gets freshened up. Comment about that, I think.
So the first item is the painting masonry, and the traditional standard that applies is you do not want to paint masonry unless it's already been painted. And in this case, we're dealing with painted masonry. The second item, I think Stephanie, you can speak to that because that was part of the agreement. I think it's about a 10-year period.
Yeah, we have a stipulation in our property owner agreements that they'll be responsible for the maintenance, keeping it in good condition for a period of 10 years.
Jump ahead a little bit. So all of our masonry was painted that we're looking at today.
So each of the facades.
The only exception to that is 186 State Street, where there's masonry repair proposed. So as part of the agreement, there will be the masonry wall will be repaired and then painted.
Stuff will come from.
Correct. So it's you know a treated facade, but not treated appropriately.
Comments, anyone?
So the black and white sketch here is kind of the proposal, or we're not dealing with the carousel on the woman's head minusing the rats, I hope.
Yeah, she kind of took some feedback and came up with this. There's still, you know, the carousel, but a little bit more.
Very yellow submarine.
It's pretty interesting. I think it's something so unique that she paints all over the world. She just was in Guadalupe a couple weeks ago, New Orleans. Yeah, so I guess you could say this is an international artist.
So that's why it's a little more pronounced than our carousel.
Yeah, it's,
Do we have an idea other than the proposed colors, what we're actually going to end up with at this point, or just kind of
yeah,
showing a dark wall?
well, yeah, as you can see, that was hand drawn, so I think she's still working on the colors, but she said that you could kind of expect the color scheme from her other pieces, so
They're bright and vibrant.
bright, colorful. I actually can see this wall from my house, so when it's painted, I'm gonna be looking down South Washington Street and see if I can, what a difference it will make, so.
So why did she decide to change the design from that rendering to the new sketch? What was the reason behind that?
Honestly, we weren't really sure how well the rats would be received. Even though the building's called the Rat, and just not sure, that's the most prominent wall and for our meal sites, so, that's kind of why.
So was this a comment from you and your department of how the rats would be perceived? Or did this comment from somebody else?
From our.
Okay.
So I have a question about the size. So in the rendering there, it shows filling the entire size. Is that the plan or is that just?
Yes, that's the plan to fill the facade there.
Whole facade?
Do you speak German at all? The fancy
No,
Deutsch? Ras, Keller doesn't mean rat.
well,
I know,
yeah,
it has
but
nothing
it's
to
just
do
the
with rats.
popular name is the Rat, I understand.
Just here, I was trying to find a reference point in there somewhere.
I think it was just a play on the moniker that the building is come to be known as, but perhaps it's a literal one. But
I think it means council.
You have a comment?
Really? I do, I have a comment. I like colors, it's nice. I like the carousel on the lady's head without the rats a little better. I'm in favor of the mural. I really like the idea. I think it gives downtown a little vibrancy, but I wouldn't be comfortable on voting on something that I don't have a finished product to cast a vote for. That's me. I want to see a finished product, but I'm supportive of the mural. I just want to see what it's going to be.
I would agree.
I would agree with Jim.
So do you want them to come back on this application with the finished product, or do you want the finished product submitted to Sean for him to distribute to us?
If everyone would be comfortable with that, I'm okay to get the project going, but I want to see the finished product before it starts.
Stephanie, is that acceptable, given that you'll be returning in August to the other application, or how does that work for your time?
Well, the artist was hoping to paint this in mid-August, so,
If the concept was done, you would have approval by the meeting is August 3rd.
so you kind of just want to see this with the
Yeah,
colors.
you'll get a green light from us to start, but we need to see what it's going to be for us to say, yeah, go ahead, or no, you got to refine. But I think we're comfortable to give you a green light at this point. We just need to see the finished product, or 90% of the finished product, so we kind of know what's.
Okay.
Do we know how long it would take for this? Will it be scaffolding and other things set up on the building and obviously?
She anticipates approximately 2 weeks, and there will be a lift, 3 months, I suppose. And did that answer all your questions?
So,
The question for Sean. So on the other applications that we're going to be reviewing, are the presented design, are they all black and white?
No,
So this is the only one that.
yes, because there was an update to the concept.
So I would agree with John's thought process. We would like to see kind of finished product before we give a final approval, but agree that we give them green light. Or
Okay, so procedurally, Sean, we should motion to table.
Yes, and you can condition that upon receipt of the final design concept with color.
Yeah, so, motion to table this application to rendering the colors presented at the next meeting, August 3rd.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. 16 Lewis Street.
yeah.
Again, the applicant is Stephanie Brewer with the Burton County Planning Department. You bet. So this is a property that does not fall within the historic district, but is substantially contiguous to. So it's in an application, sort of similar to a few of the signs that you have reviewed previously. It's one of those cases where it's going to visually impact the historic district. We just, I want the commission to keep that in mind. It's not within it. The applicant, again, though, because of the funding of the project, received approval from the State Historic Preservation Office. And I will go immediately to the mural. I think I'll have to rotate it. This is the existing condition.
So while we're on that view, their sign will go away out for their sign. They're in agreement with that.
I think that sign will remain. It's gonna be done.
Oh, I see, okay.
Hard to believe I would have an opinion, eh? I like the idea, I love the backdrop, and I recognize after some scrutiny that it's supposed to be a snowboard and not a skateboard, but it took me a bit to get there. And my first question is, why is the law sufficient in holding up a skateboard in downtown Binghamton? Because that's really what I saw initially. Is he a local guy, or is this some composite of somebody, or is it the artist's face?
No, it's not the artist. It might be someone the artist knows, but I'm not really sure who the figure is. It's just kind of a icy, he has like icicles on his face and just, a snowboarder.
I kind of think if we were going to go with a personage, it might be fun, an artist subjective. This is opinion. Maybe a historic personage from Binghamton's past with his winter headgear on. Maybe Mayor Phelps or Dr. Jomer, Jones, somebody that would just be fun and have some foot in Binghamton's past. I'd almost really rather see a pair of skis that's identifiable with Berger Ski Shop rather than the snowboard that I'm having a hard time differentiating from a skateboard. That's just what I see. I'm sure there's other opinions here.
John, I'll give you my opinion on the skis versus snowboard. Snowboard, I think, is more on a current, right, in the way that kids and everybody else perceive skiing, right? I mean, skiing is still a pretty popular thing, but I like the concept of the snowboard more than the skis.
Does it look like a snowboard to you at first glance?
Yeah, I know there's a snowboard.
I know I live in a very narrow, cloistered environment. I admit it readily.
Anything else?
I actually like the fact that the guy is a little older. This will be visible from the bus terminal, correct?
Correct, and all the buses that go through, so it's gonna be highly visible and hope that it gets a lot of attraction.
And again, I'm assuming too that building owners on the risk. Well, let's see.
I think it's okay.
Want a motion on this one?
I would make a motion to approve as presented with the recommendation that the personage should reflect an individual from Binghamton in his winter attire.
Suggestions?
Well, as a planner, I take recommendations seriously. So is that like a conditional? Okay.
No. The commission uses recommendations as suggestions, and they state conditions as part of the approval.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So, Sean, it's a little bit different from getting involved with the design process of other projects ahead of time. Is this something you should consider having input on before it shows up here for the final product? It's happened a couple of times.
So the commission becoming involved with the design process?
Just like everybody's having an opinion or a comment. So would that be helpful during the process that the county's going through the artists and feedback prior to this meeting where we have a final?
I'm sure that all feedback is always like welcome. It's just a matter of, the constraints that are ascribed to a project and getting more and more feedback, right? So I think the board's feedback is meant to come during these meetings and prior to after reviewing that.
I just was equating it to a final design that shows up here, which then becomes too late to comment.
So that's true. Yeah. In this case, the applicant has to go through the artist, the property owners, and then back and forth between them to our department, and feedback from our department, and then it arrives to you after it's gone through that.
Just a thought, 186 State Street.
Okay, so 186 State Street, again, the applicant is for the planning department. This is the application I mentioned that is the masonry repair component due to the demolition of a building that was adjacent to this property. And yeah, I'll go quickly to the design so we can see. These were the conditions of treating the masonry, which are in line with what SHPO recommended. I think on this facade, and then there's also masonry repair to the columns. They're not really columns, I would call them pilasters. And in this case, it's actually interesting. I'm pretty sure that was looking at this and then reviewing it. It looks like there were stone pilasters and then they were modernized, and the storefront was modernized, and it was bricked in to hide that. But if you look through our downtown, there are many instances where you see a storefront display surrounded by rusticated stone. And in this case, I think they modernized it by encapsulating it in brick, which I thought was a cool discovery as part of this project, but I believe they just want to repair the brick. The brick here. And the facade or the proposed brick replacement, the stucco removal, brick replacement, and repointing will occur. Then the location of the mural.
Sorry, this is a footprint of the improvements or repairs.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then the design will be along the entire side.
Thoughts?
Like the But is it an indigenous fish to our rivers?
I think it's, one of the, I think it's supposed to be an in fly fishing, so I know that's pretty big, kind of, at least in Sanford, they kind of have a angler resort,
I
so,
like that.
yeah, I think so.
Is that fish indigenous to Susquehanna?
I think it's a base.
I like it.
Okay, with it, and it's improvement on that side of the building, they can pull off that.
I'll also note that this mural and the previous mural are both in the Binghamton's Decker District, and the city of Binghamton is proposing a lot of improvements, and this would kind of enhance some of those improvements and the streetscape of that section of town.
I spoke with the design team, the city was working with on the Decker District, and they were well aware of the project. Thought that this fit with what the city is going for.
Make a motion to CAUD board approve the mural design and enhancements to the side of the building at 186 State Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sean, can you skip down to finish the?
Yes, and I was just gonna say, for that motion that was just, you may want to also mention the masonry repair, since the masonry repair is going to occur. Some of it will occur on the primary facade in addition to the facade with the mural.
This motion was for enhancement for the building, would that cover that? That was great.
I think it would be better for the record if you mention you mentioned the improvements associated with the mural, but some of the improvements are not associated with the mural.
Okay, so do I amend my motion or just do it again?
I would just do it again.
Make a motion that we approve proposal at 186 State Street for the mural design and also for the enhancements to the facade on the front of the building and any other enhancements to the structure side.
Second.
All in favor? Sixty-six Exchange Street.
Okay, we're just gonna jump
A little bit.
a little bit out of order here, just for the sake of the current applicant before us. And again, this is for 66 Exchange Street. The applicant is again Stephanie Brewer with the Bergen County Planning Department. It is another mural. I will go right to the rendering of this one. So again, this is the proposed mural wall. It faces south. I will keep it. So this actually incorporates elements that extend off of the wall.
Both sides of those. Right now, just on the seeing.
Yeah, I think there were some more, yeah.
We're looking at the east side of that lower wall, we're doing the west side of that little 4-foot deep wall as well, is that correct?
Yeah, I think you can see it, this one and the previous one, it kind of. Oh, but I don't think it goes on the other side of the.
So it will not be visible on the Exchange Street side.
Yeah, of that particular.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
you
one.
can see it, but. I mean,
It is.
so it will be,
I like finance.
I like it too. Yeah, it's probably.
Motion to approve the murals presented for, sorry, 66 Exchange Street. I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
thank you all,
Thank
and I'll see you in August.
211 Henry Street.
Okay, so the application is for 211 Henry Street, recently renamed Marapido Stadium. And the applicant is Atlantic Mobile Systems LLC, and they're doing business as Verizon Wireless. This is a, I think, pretty straightforward application for the commission. It sort of it falls within your broader powers, review powers under the Commission on Architecture and Urban Design, and not as the Landmarks Preservation Commission for the city. So, and it also was not a small cell installation, so it was not subject to the small cell design standards that you approved in late 2019. This is co-location of new antennas on an existing tower for antennas. I will jump down to the correct, yep.
Okay. Applicant, you want to add anything?
Yes.
Commissioner, my name is Jared Love from Peabody, representing all Atlantic Mobile Systems. Verizon Wireless, our two people, Steve Mancuso and Robert Wilson, both part of the project. It's been straightforward. We're proposing to co-locate 3 antennas onto the field lighting pole and then open on the line, open to be installed right at the base of the pole. They need access to it through 8 restricted, not onto 3 antennas, 3 remote radio heads installed at the center line of 65 feet from it, just to provide reliable service around that.
So anything that's at ground level is at the behind the fence, is that how I understand it?
So
Anything at ground level?
will be behind the fence, square.
Pretty straightforward.
Make a motion to approve the Verizon Wireless antenna and wire base and all that, sir, I'm sorry. The Verizon equipment cabinets are the base equipment cabinets.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, not on our agenda, but we're gonna hear another applicant, under other business.
Yes, and this is the applicant is interested in getting the commission's input on a project for 159 Washington Street. And I will let the applicant come forward and take over.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Campbell, Sarah Campbell with Human Heart and Capel, representing 159 Washington Street LLC. This is a project in the old Ellis Furniture building. Josh Bishop is the developer. He's been through site plan review and approval with the planning commission as well as a variance approval with the zoning board of appeals. The requirement is for an exterior staircase, which when it was submitted was not enclosed, did not require enclosure. However, when the code department took a closer look, they made a determination that it in fact did require enclosure. So we're looking for permission to, the enclosure is somewhat prescribed by the fire and building code regulations. There can't be any windows, it has to be a non-combustible material. But we were looking for your input on the color. It is not visible from a public street. It is located in an alleyway behind the old furniture store and also kind of behind Richie's Pizza. So you really can't see it at all. And my error was the zoning board of appeals granted approval a few weeks ago, and I forgot to submit an application to CAUD. So the project is essentially done. They're almost ready to move in. And so we were hoping that you would just give us some feedback on the color. The applicant was thinking white would be a good color because it is the trim color of the building. And if it was your pleasure to grant approval, that would be terrific. If not, I certainly understand. But we would like to at least perhaps get the material ordered in the correct color. If you're not in a position to make a determination today, at your next meeting, the installation could begin.
Can you tell us what the material is of the enclosure?
It's a hardy plank material.
Do you have an existing picture of that facade?
I think I do. There's nothing in there now.
I'm assuming it's painted brick on the backside.
Yeah.
I don't remember the color. John, do you remember the color?
I'm supportive of initiating the process that you've started and to do color review at the next meeting.
Correct.
It's a necessity. Not my heart decides.
So she just asking for recommendation. It's kind of hard to give us a recommendation when we don't have an existing picture to kind of see what's back there. But John is right, kind of secondary weird. So
I know from just familiarity with there, it is not easily seen, not really visible. What I would say to the commission is I know it's represented to be in, but what I think the applicant is seeking is guidance. Whatever recommendations you give to the design, at the next meeting, it can be approved, and there's nothing unexpected upon the
I
approval.
mean, I'd love an approval if you give it, but if you can't, you're not in a position, then if you could just let us know for way off base with that color. We could always meet if you choose a different color. But as you know, materials are taking a really long time to get in.
yeah,
I don't know if it's actually visible.
I think for us to even provide a recommendation, we would at least need an existing photo of that rear facade. Just to
Is
see
that
how
part
I
of the plan?
Hoping it was in the staff report, so I'm gonna go there.
I didn't participate in the planning process, so I don't have it.
So you need to know the color of the material.
You notice? Yeah, there it is. But it's not,
It's behind
yeah.
here.
Over there.
So it's on the side of that building where the first was?
Yeah, so it's behind
color white was because
The trim is white.
the trim is white.
You can see the trim.
I don't know, perhaps white. Yeah.
One and off white.
Usually, so in this case, if whatever color's there, I mean, primary, like rule number one is separate and but distinct. So as long as it's, you know, obviously the material will separate it, but also if you change the color, you know, so that it just doesn't detract from the masonry paint, the painted masonry in that location, like a slightly different color. Not, you know,
Black, green.
a good example is the press building, right, in the stair tower there. You have a separate material, and it's also a slightly different shade from the masonry. Off the top.
That's fine. I mean, he doesn't have a strong preference anyway. Just off-white, you know, green, fine, not a stark white.
I think it might be somewhat difficult to maintain.
It's gonna look off-white regardless,
Yeah.
right?
Thinking that
Right.
it snows, it's yellow.
Dingy under.
Like this color.
What are the colors on the facades that exist?
As far as I know, there are none. It's a brick building.
Right. Just regular.
Yeah.
And then the trim is painted a long white as well. So it was some of the signage here that
If it were something to show, I would have a very strong opinion, but it's totally unsigned.
Yeah, I'm the same way, I think it's just like, right, something neutral, just tan, blended in color.
So, John, to your point, this is the color for the trim windows. I guess, I think you've got two colors. Actually, you have like a cream that's used for the painted windows and the portions of the facade here above the second story windows. And then you have a sort of a cornice line that's a different color masonry, it looks like this picture.
Distinguish. What am I trying to get the project going?
I was just trying to think about how to move this forward too. It's like, a lot of times they'll submit a color sample, 2-3 color samples, which we can pass around prior to the next.
So, yeah, unfortunately, you can't make an official motion today because of an agenda. But with, you know, guidance, you know, the applicant will proceed and then, you know, sort of receive your formal stamp of approval at the next meeting.
I was thinking if we had better existing photos of the building, any options on color that we could pass around prior to the next meeting. I think that would make it go really smooth. We don't talk color. I don't think anybody has a problem with material, right? Okay, so it's,
Suggest now.
Yeah.
right,
You're not,
Yeah.
yeah.
and that way there we can expedite this as fast as we can. Sort of have an official decision for it.
That'd be great. I hear what you're saying. I will communicate that back to the owner and see you next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yep. So under other business, Sean, you have 32 North Street.
Yes, just to follow up, we had discussed at the last meeting, pursuing a determination of historical significance for 32 North Street. I have not completed my review yet, and I don't want to present something that's not ready to the board. So I just wanted to give you an update. It will be ready by August. I'm just not finished doing all of the research yet. And then the next item sent around was the proposed eligible Main Street Historic District that is being considered by the State Review Board at their September 9th board meeting for listing. The city is going to be hosting 2 informational meetings, one at the end of this month and one in mid-August, provide information to the public about that process and the district. And as a certified local government, you have the opportunity to weigh in either in favor or against the listing. And so that is up to you to review, and you can make a motion either way. Certified local governments have more input. And so in this case, it takes both the commission and the mayor can weigh in. And if you both find against listing, then if I remember correctly, it actually prevents the process from moving forward. But if you both go in favor, it obviously proceeds, and if you both differing opinions, still proceed.
All right, so maybe a little bit of education for me. The input from us would be along what ground? Areas of buildings in particular, what would be the necessarily focused on view of the story?
So it would be any comments, the nomination form is still a draft. So it would be any comments that you have with regard to the form as drafted, with regard to the narrative statement of significance for the district as a whole, any of the building descriptions, the boundaries, any of the properties that are included, not included, ones that are contributing versus non-contributing. It really can be anything.
Is there a reason that they stopped at crossing Cedar Street and just continue up Main Street to Johnson City Board?
The reasoning was that it was difficult. Usually there has to be a sort of continuous integrity of the district, but what happens at the point where they terminated for the western terminus of the district, there's a substantial break in building form, and it just, none of those, there aren't buildings there, and there are vacant properties, or there are properties that do not fall within the period of significance to the district. And so up until the point that exists on the eastern terminus, western terminus, all the buildings fit within the defined period of significance to the district.
Lot short. We don't have another one in the city. Get up to that, I've got the works, the home, of course, put down everything on each side of it. Can we spot these things?
Those can all be, that's something that the commission would consider separately as not being part of the district, but pursue local landmark designation or, reaching out to the state and then reaching out to the property owner if they're interested in individually listing it.
See, there's on Oak Street, there's 50 lots that are kind of not. They're worried about future infill there.
So the infill, any infill, if using state or federal monies, would be subject to review by the state within the boundary area.
Well, because there's a map, see on that is part of the district, but those be subject to review in the future for infill.
if the properties were, usually substantially contiguous properties are considered as having a visual impact on the district, but it's not as formal as it's spelled within it. Those properties along there were just determined, it basically the entire concept of the district was tied to the corridor. And so those properties, because they face onto North Street here and that portion of Oak Street, all just were determined to not have the association with the corridor and also have integrity.
So the goal of this was either the division district to maintain buildings and streets.
So there really isn't a lot of regulation that's applied here. The only time where the state would review again is if there's state, federal permits, licenses, or funding. And in which case then there would be review. But private property owners can still decide to do whatever they wish with their property as long as they're using their own funding. The goal or the objective was to list the district and increase the incentives for property maintenance, whether it be through the rehabilitation tax credit or the various grants that are available. And so it was really just to provide relief to some of these property owners, because many, I forget off the top of my head the number, but there was a substantial, well more than half of the properties are already local landmarks within the district. And they are basically, they're completely subject to review by CAUD, but don't really have any of the financial incentives of preservation afforded to them. And so listing this district would increase their the potential for these property owners to seek relief.
So does it change our review area?
No,
And so-
no new properties, as part of this process, no new properties would fall under your jurisdiction.
If you own a property in this district, are you prevented?
Yes, you should probably recuse yourself. But you will have an opportunity as a property owner to either speak in the affirmative or against. And that is, you should provide a notarized letter to the state if you haven't received a mail-in already. I received, as you saw this morning, I received a mailing from the state yesterday.
Any other comments, questions? John, anything else?
Nope, that was it. So the commission can either choose to make a motion in favor or against. It has to be more formal or table.
I wanted to make sure Sean said everything you wanted to say about the vision. So we have to form a motion in favor of it.
Or not in favor of, or you can table, there's technically time still to table if you want more information, and commissioners are more than welcome to attend either of those. Well, I will post the flyer based there today. There will be two for the public. One is July 28th, it's a Wednesday, 5:15 p.m. here. And then the second is August 18th. It's the Thursday. The 18th or 19th. And it will be at the community center on Walnut Street, 89, street address is 85.
So, Sean, why would we make a motion if there's still informational meetings left?
They're just purely informational. They, are an opportunity for the public to learn about the district, but there's no function of them other than providing information. The public will respond to the mailing that the state provided, and that's where they will have the opportunity, if they're an owner of a previously unlisted property within the district, they can participate. But otherwise, it is purely just informational.
I was gonna say, the only options that we have is maybe for boundaries, which can ask some questions about, like that this question. So that's the input we have, or a particular building that, why is it not included? Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It's a positive thing, you try to make things open. But it's up to you guys, really.
I asked public buildings, my question, my second back in.
Now this business, so you have not yet.
Now, did you answer your question? It sounds like it's not going to change from the public hearing process.
Yeah, it's just an opportunity for the city to be present, the consultant who drafted the primary listing of the documents, and then also the state will be there to answer, provide a short, brief presentation, and also answer any questions that the property owners may have. That was a location chosen on purpose, as it is included within the district.
John, you were going to start to close something? Okay.
So you're endorsing, yeah, a resolution of support.
Motion for resolution support for the
Main Street, eligible Main Street Historic District.
I have a second. Dennis, second. All in favor? I have one abstention, Mike. Motion passes.
Okay.
Anything else from board members?
going forward, I will not be here for August. But my question.
Second. No. I will not be here for August.
But this view said, for instance, we have the option of attending that.
No, the change to the state of emergency, that we're no longer in state of emergency, sort of return to a quasi state of normalcy with regard to Robert's rules. Obviously, there are some changes that you can see here today. You'll be able to watch the meeting and listen, but you will not be able to participate or vote. You have to be present to vote, just as previously.
Who was in present today? Sorry, it's fine.
Mary Ellen.
So you're losing myself.
We need Mary Ellen with Mike and myself.
So that would be like the next week or something. Throw it out.
I'll try to get an idea for attendance now.
So you're saying, John, we don't have to go, we can do the special meeting without you. Okay.
The third. I'll be calling Mary Ellen.
We're short one person.
Correct.
You know how this year or not?
I don't see it. It's been out there, sort of a continuous request, but I don't see it happening soon. I always ask again.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn. Second adjourn.
Second, thank you. All in favor?
Good to see everybody again, by the way.
Oh, now that I'm still alive, I'm old. Yeah. Yes.